What up, y'all? Welcome back to Soul Seat Conversations. I'm your host and the owner at Soul Rise Essentials, where we offer affirmation and mental wellness apparel for the entire family. We create apparel and merch that empowers resilient humans to thrive on their best days and in between. Why do we do a podcast? I'm talking to two different screens, by the way. So I got this screen and I also have this screen on TikTok. So 2 devices. So if y'all see me looking around, that's the only reason why. I'm excited to be here, y'all. This is episode 18. We've been doing this for 18 months. It's like a year and some change. Almost 2 years. So we've been going real strong, y'all. So again, my name is Soliel Lindsey. I'm the owner of Soul Rise Essentials. We are based in Richmond, Virginia, USA. And I say USA because we are a global brand, okay? We are on the road to going global. And I'm going to share some updates in just a little bit as to why that is really important. So if you're coming on in the room, definitely tag somebody, share this video with them. What up? I see you like Huey in the comments. Our guest is actually already here. I'm going to go and make a couple of different announcements. And if you want to just invite some people in while you are here looking at me talk and stuff like that, you can do that as well. I'll actually do the same thing. Let me pull some folks on up in here. Let me see. Oh, she said she was going to join after the fact. We got Francis online. We're just going to tag some people, y'all. Tag them on in the room. Give me just a second. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. She active now. Boom. We're going to bring her in the room. You want to be on Instagram? Come in for a great cause. All right, cool, y'all. So who are we? What do? We create affirmation apparel for the entire family. We try to lift your spirits. We create affirmation apparel for people that have gone through some things, that have been through life's traumas, any adverse life experiences, and you are looking for a like-minded group of people to be on this journey to health and wellness again, to help your soul rise again. That's what soul means. My name is Soleil. It means the sun. It's also the French word for sun, S-O-L. It's a Spanish word for sun. So we try to help y'all rise again, okay? We want your personal sun to rise again. We want your soul on the inside to rise again. So you're going to go through some things in life. They're going to have you down, right? Our merch is very colorful. It's expressive. It has positive phrases on them. And you put them on when you need to feel good. Even when you're feeling good already, put them on and inspire somebody else to feel good as well. So we do this podcast to create and build more community around what we're doing. So we have a global mission to just put mental health in front of people and let them know that it's important and that it's okay to take care of yourself. It's actually vital that you take care of your mental wellness, because if you don't have a brain that's functioning properly, you can't do anything else. It's literally the basis for all things, y'all. So I have some super exciting news before we get into the actual podcast itself. Actually, before I tell you that, so Soul Seat Conversations exist to share stories of resilience, to build global community, and for you to discover new ways to thrive via the brave voices of other people. So that's why we do what we do. What up to Will? What up to Francis? Thank y'all so much for joining me. Definitely tag some people down below. If you are watching the replay, comment down below whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or somewhere else, child. Somebody send it to your text messages. Let us know that you are watching by hashtagging replay with some sunshine emojis in the comments as well. What up, y'all? I see y'all coming on in. Thanks for joining. So that's what we do. We are actually going to have a guest. I hope I'm saying his name right, because it looks like Malik, but I think his name is actually Malik. So Malik is going to come in just a few minutes. But I got some exciting news. I'm going to tell TikTok over here and I'm going to tell Instagram over here. We are trademarked, y'all. Okay. We found out on the first day of spring, March 21st, like 7:00 in the morning. And also the first day of Aries season. Can all my Aries stand up? Okay. Thank y'all. Queen Aries right here. So I'm so excited, y'all. It is legitimizing our business even more, solidifying the work that we are putting into this thing. Can't nobody be stealing the girl name up out here. Soul Rise Essentials is trademarked, okay? I told people don't forget the R, okay? The R with the little circle. Yeah, we're trademarked now. Super, super exciting. It's been a long time coming. It actually took almost 12 months. A lot of paperwork involved and attorneys involved and communications involved. What up, Young Jock? Thank you, Rob. I appreciate you. Thank y'all so much. So much more to come. We actually dropped something on the website yesterday, and the first people that found out about it were on our email list and on our text list. So if you're not on there, go get on there right now. You'll also get 15% off your purchase whenever you want to use that 15% coupon by joining one of those lists. So go check it out. I'm not going to tell y'all what it is. Go check it out because I got to tell everybody else first. I can't drop it on here. I got to be fair. But the people that found out first were the VIP Soul Tribe family. Thank you, Will. I appreciate that, y'all. We going places. We are going places. It's so, so exciting. My birthday is also coming up in April as well. So just expect me in this business to be extra because I'm already extra. It's going to be real extra. And it's also springtime. Like, check in the comments. How y'all feeling? Like, this warm weather. I live in Virginia. Let me know where y'all watching from. How y'all feeling? Because we've been getting some remnants of warm weather. It hasn't quite come through, like, consistently yet. But let me tell you something about that sun, baby. It's not just on my shirt, okay? My name means the sun. I love to be warm. I was born in April. The sun charges me like no other, okay? Malik in the comments like, yeah, he got his hands up in some fire emojis. Let me tell y'all, it does wonders for your mental health just to be out in that natural vitamin D, child. And then when it gets cold, go take you some artificial vitamin D and eat your vitamin D. You got to eat a whole lot of it because food is just not what food used to be. So just drop in some little nuggets there. But as for me and mine, I am feeling better like overall. Just to give some transparency. Life been lifing lately, y'all. And literally right before this podcast, I had to get myself together. Because there was a moment that I was going through, okay? So just transparency, you know, like this is not a fake foo-foo, phony brand. Like we are authentic people in this thing together. And we simply are trying to keep each other encouraged and empowered, okay? The power is on the inside. You just got to reach back in and dig in when you need that thing. And I personally love to pull in on my soul tribe as well. So I've been wearing my soul tribe necklace, channeling y'all's good energy and all of our camaraderie together. And this is what I've been wearing. So I have mine on in rose gold. These are available on our website. We also have our loved necklaces as well. We also have resilient necklaces as well. We also have these in a choker version and for kids in a smaller, it's a little bit smaller, hypoallergenic, tarnish free, waterproof. Go shop, get on the email and text message list and you can save 15% off. We have our black pack light tees. They also come in white. Child, there's a whole lot of stuff on that website. Last but not least, our Do Good, Be Good hoodies. We only literally have a handful left. Hey, Jamaica. They are only a handful left. They are $10 off on our website. Give us the room in this office and inventory space by buying the rest of these hoodies. Okay, they are $10 off. Go get yours. So much more on the website. These beautiful, colorful hats. We are very intentional about the colors that we use in our designs because they lift your spirits. You know, people talk about aromatherapy a lot, but color therapy is also a thing. So some people say, oh, why is it so bright? Because we want it to be. Okay, that's what we do here at Soul Rise Essentials. So I know I've been talking a lot, y'all. I'm going to bring in Malik. And we're going to start talking about his resilient story. It's a lot. Like, this brother is deep. This brother has been through a whole lot, what I like to call complex traumas. Because sometimes trauma just don't be stopping. Sometimes it don't just be one thing. It's a whole lot. So I have a whole bunch of notes. Y'all, my bad. I'm just looking around for my pen. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just grab another one. I'm excited about this dude, man. I get really excited. My mama talking about she want a green hat. Well, baby, you was just here and you also can go to the website, but we gonna get you straight. Let's talk offline. What's up, Mood? Thank you for joining us. What's up, TikTok? Y'all let us know where y'all are watching from and just comment, y'all. This is an interactive thing. He gonna have a lot to share. Y'all gonna have a lot of questions. I love when men come on my podcast because just to see them being vulnerable and being vocal and just sharing it all, bearing it all and talking about their mental health, mental wellness, their journeys, how they've been bouncing back. It lights my fire. Like I said, before I got on the podcast, I was a whole hot, angry mess. This is my life's purpose. This is my life's work. And it fuels me to share the stories of other people and also to create community around mental health because you need it. Okay. Shout out to the Soul Tribe. Is there anything else I forgot to tell y'all? Because we about to start talking. If you have a resilient story that you want to share, you are not above this podcast, okay? You don't have to have all these fancy accolades. You simply just need to be brave, be ready to tell your story. Email us at mystory@soulriseessentials.com, spelled just like that. my story at soulriseessentials.com. We will make sure the story is a good fit for our platform. We'll reach out, we'll put you on the calendar, and you go come on up in here and share your story and inspire the people, okay, on their healing and their wellness journeys. You can find this episode and the others on YouTube. We may be making some changes to our podcast to make it like really podcasty, but that'll be in the coming months, and I will give y'all more information about that soon. But for now, you can find it on IGTV and also on YouTube. Some incredible stories, just like the one that we're about to see today. Last reminder, we are not clinicians. We are not professionals. Sometimes we do have professionals come on here, but when they sit in this soul seat, they're not in their professional hat. They don't have that professional hat on. Okay. But today we are thrivers that are sharing our lived experiences, and who can tell that better than us? So if you hear some advice, something that sounds like advice today, it ain't advice. Okay. These are just stories, and we just want to make sure that you can reach out to professionals and your doctors if you need a diagnosis or need some help, things like that. So we're just sharing our stories. Got to put that out there. Last but not least, for real this time, let's have a mindful moment, y'all. When I start talking and get hype, I be running out of breath. So I'm just going to take a couple of breaths. I would love if you could join me. This is something new that we started to do on the podcast, and y'all said y'all liked it. So we're going to keep doing it, okay? So let's have a mindful minute, whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's going to be some cleansing, deep breaths to like reset my brain and all that jazz. So I'm going to take a moment to do that. And then I'm going to bring in Malik. Sorry. Whew. Okay, y'all. Two more. Immediate calmness, y'all. That works for me. Everybody has their own thing. But I've been doing that for a very long time, but I started to do it on here because it just be relaxing your girl. Okay. So Malik, let's go. All right, let me see. Y'all, please let me know if there happens to be a lag. What's going on, my friend?
How you doing? How are you doing?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm here. I was trying to set up the camera, so I'm good. I'm just gonna hold it right now, though.
Okay.
But
I mean, no rush. You can set it down if you want.
Okay.
If you want to get.
Okay, let me try this. I'm gonna try and do something real quick. I'm gonna turn it to the side so I can get comfortable. I was in my mindful moment.
Mindful moment. Come on, mindful moment.
Yes. Let's see.
No
Let's
rush.
see if I can rotate.
No rush
All right.
at all.
Here we go.
A little frame straight too. Let me put this back a little bit.
One more thing. Oh, sorry, y'all.
No
All right, now it's not work for me.
This is a authentic podcast. It does not have to be perfect. We're gonna get it together. You just have to make sure you turn the phone back the other way though, because they won't rotate it on Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying right now. So that's not gonna work. I got it on my camera, so I'm just gonna hold it.
You sure you're gonna hold it for like 45 to an hour?
It's all good. I got the arms straight. I got the muscles for it. I can do it. It's fine.
Shout out to the Love Movement, Marie and Free. Thank y'all for joining us. Did I say your name right, Malik?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I would just like to say good morning. Hello to everybody here. And I definitely felt you this morning, Soliel. Like today is a day. Every day is a day. And so I appreciate you for popping up, pulling up, and showing up. And everybody here,
yes.
Everybody in the comments too, because I know everybody here has their own things going on. So yeah. Gratitude.
Yes, thank you for bringing that spirit of love. I really love what you had to say when you shared the flyer to let everybody know you were going to be on here. It was just full of love. Like, it was so authentic. I should have pulled it up so I could read it. I'm going to just read that because I feel like it's going to set the tone. So people are going to get to know who you are today, but I really want to set the tone a little bit more so they can really, like, feel your spirit. Like when I read it, I was like, "Dang, it's like Huey, right?" Like,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's me.
Is it an underscore or anything?
No, just like Huey, just straight up, like Huey.
What's up, Derek? I see you in the comments. Hey, y'all. So this is what he said. It was so moving. And as I was saying earlier, I don't know if you were here. I was just saying I love to have men on my podcast and just hear y'all's heart. That's not something that people hear often, unless they're talking about that in their personal spaces, which is great. But like on a public platform, and it ain't no drama. Like it's very rare. So this is what Malik said. He said, "Tap in and join us. It's time to be real to each other and heal one another. I give so much gratitude and appreciation for the dope souls in this world, the ones that make space for the voice of the people. All love and respect to Soul Rise Essentials, the spark behind a lot of fire in this city. We're taking masks off, thank you, and keeping it real about the art of life, the ups and downs of the journey of changing ourselves, others, and our communities. I'm an artist and so much more. We all are. Grateful to be seen and invited to bring my whole self to the table. We grow when we connect and share. This is more than a conversation. It's an invitation to be your true self. Share your truth with your tribe and the real ones in your life. Well, we're real humans living real life, doing real work. Please join, connect, and support any and all waves to make this world a better place. You are enough. I promise you are. Be safe and be well out there." And he also put a plug in there, y'all. He said, "Get fly right and join the Soul Tribe while you at it too, and put our website." That's what I'm talking about.
Gratitude. Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.
Are you a poet as well?
So I used to write poetry, but I like to write just for myself, just to clear my head. That's how I get my words out. So I guess so. But yeah, so without a doubt, my energy is reflected though. So my energy comes from the people that I get around. And so I want to take the time to give you your flowers for even just the way that we connected and the way that you brought me in organically and the way that you're letting your light just shine out here, because we need this space. We need this platform. We need to be able to do this. I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about the whole me. People just want to hear whatever I pull up and introduce myself as, you know. So
Thank you. And that's what this space is all about. It's about people sometimes we see in the community that are doing things, and it's like, well, what's the story behind your why? What is the story behind Malik? Who is Malik? I don't want to just focus on the work that you're doing, which is great, but I love to hear why people are doing what they're doing, what made them be in a position to do what they're doing. So I'm super excited. I appreciate the flowers. I received the flowers. So we'll take it back just a little bit. So we actually met a couple months ago. We were out downtown and we connected with each other. And I don't know the whole conversation. I just know that, I don't know, you might remember more than I do. You don't have to say where we were. But it was just like an instant connection and appreciation for each other. And we started talking eventually, and I asked you to come on my podcast. You tell it from the way you remember it.
From the way I remember it, I was so it was at the RVA Fashion Week. It was at one of the events. And so I was basically just out kind of just clearing my head because I was feeling stressed. I needed to sort of just unwind and I needed a place to go. And I was walking by, I saw this dope event. And I said, hey, can I step up in here and check out what's going on? Pulled up, come to find out, I know a few of the people in there. And so I started walking over to the bar, just sort of just seeing what's what. I said, you know, I'm going to go get something to drink. And that's where I met you. And we started talking about just your name off the introduction, which was Soliel, which meant sun. And then that spilled into this whole thing talking about art and rising and changing folks. And I kind of just let you know sort of what I had going on. And you let me know what you had going on. But the thing that really struck me and the thing I appreciated was the fact that you just pulled your mask off just like I did. You weren't afraid of, you know, letting me know who you were. I just pulled up. I was like, all right, who are you? What do you do? And then I said, I am, you know, this is who I am and this is what I do. And you respected that and you received it. So,
yeah,
so we are.
It was definitely a divine connection because it's weird out here these days. You can't be so trusting of people, but the vibes felt right. And I know when I meet somebody that has more to them than meets the eye in terms of like, hopefully I say this the right way, but you can just tell when people have been through some things, you know what I'm saying? And when the light that they're shining is reflective of like a rebirth, if that makes sense, which is what this brand is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
proper introduction, y'all. This is Malik Brooks. He is based in Richmond, Virginia, but after talking with him and hearing more of his story, he has roots in a couple different states and things like that. So we're going to get into his work, but I'll let you just properly introduce yourself and wherever you want to go with the introduction, and then we'll take off.
Okay, cool. What's up, everybody? So, as Soleil said, my name is Malik, Malik Brooks, but I just go by Malik. At this point in my life, I would describe myself as an artist, an activist, a social change agent, and technically therapeutic mentor, facilitator, but I'm just a whole human being. I've done a variety of jobs, I've done a variety of work, and I've kind of gotten to a place where even just describing myself as what I've done just doesn't seem to be sufficient. So I grew up in Richmond. I spent here, well, actually, I was born in Northern Virginia. Then we moved down to Richmond. I grew up in Richmond, and at around the age of 17, because of basically just life in the city, I kind of had to leave just to survive, to survive my teenage years. And I went to Texas, where I plugged in with my father who lived out there, plugged in with a whole bunch of other different people in different cities, and just got plugged into helping change communities like Richmond. So, and I've been
You a
on the road.
military brat or anything?
Not at all. I'm not. This family just moving around. So sometimes life just works like that.
Yeah.
And, and but what does come with it is making friends in different places and friends that scatter everywhere else, and you get home on the West Coast, home on the South, home in the Northeast, home everywhere. So yeah, I have family all over the world though.
Yeah.
So my family's military. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we had connected on was kind of like our upbringing and getting into trouble. So taking it back to your days
So
in, yeah,
yeah,
taking it back to your days in Richmond, what was that like while you were growing up? Because you did talk about what you do in terms of, and we'll get into more exactly what you do. But
yeah.
essentially your work is restorative. You work with
Florida.
people that are, we'll just say, gang members. You know, you
Yes,
work with
yeah,
refugees, people, what I call it, from where I'm from, in the trenches, like really going through some
yeah,
stuff and the
yeah,
hard things that we read about and see on TV. You're working with
yeah,
those people. So
yeah.
before we get to that, like when you were growing up, what was that
Mhm.
like?
So growing up for me, I'll put it to you like this. For my family, I was fortunate where my parents did the quote unquote black excellence thing. They did it right. Did it right for like the first 5 years of my life, married and all of that. Then things fell apart. My parents split and our lives changed drastically. We moved to Richmond, Southside, Broad Rock, in with my grandmother and several of my other cousins and my aunts, and basically showing up there for me like brought me into the real like you said, what's going down in the trenches. And so within about the first year of me moving to Richmond and growing up here, my first friend was killed.
Mm.
He was shot by his brother when he was 9 and I was 7 years old. And so from there, basically, like, it was that was a bad thing that happened to me, but what it did is it made me aware of everything that was going on. And so I would say that from that point on, like, I kind of struggled to find my childhood. So I didn't laugh, I didn't skip like other kids, and I would get down whenever, you hear something pop. I was always very serious, because after that, multiple people were gone. Multiple people died. They killed people, and they would kill themselves. And so for me, it was the violence of the background that I grew up in that really kind of turned me on to how much people matter. When you lose somebody, you learn how much life matters. And you think about whether your life could be taken away or not and what that would do to the people around you. And so that kind of just became my goal and my motivation. I would just try to figure out, like, why are we out here thugging? Like, why are we so bad? Why am I mad? And I've even been in situations myself where I grew into, by the time I was 14 years old, ended up in situations where I'm in, life or death beef with people that I grew up with
At
because
14, it's
at
crazy.
14, at 14, because of some he said, she said stuff. And all of these things basically kind of made me aware that, it can, like, we can be growing up in a normal civilized society, but we are not all of us are living in that. So I know what it's like to have days where you don't care about anything but getting sleep. You don't care about anything but getting home alive. You don't care about anything but bringing your friends back or just changing what's going on around you. And so growing up in Richmond, experiencing and seeing a lot of this stuff, and for me personally, just feeling like the people around me weren't as affected by it. And I was like, why
Yeah.
are we just letting
Yeah.
it happen? You know? So we got to the place where people would say the phrase that I use, niggas die every day. And I got tired of hearing that. I got so tired of hearing that. But when I was a child, I didn't have the voice to go and say that. So I would just kind of have to keep it quiet and then keep trying to push and get into new spaces where I guess I could feel like I could speak up.
Right.
And for me personally, I had to leave. Leaving Richmond would give me the opportunity to start talking to people, to tell a new story instead of being caught up in the old one. So, and without a doubt,
would you describe yourself as an empath? Because that's what it sounds like.
Ooh, 100%. 100%.
And I got some backstory. So for people just joining or people that don't live in Virginia or the U.S. and have no idea what Broad Rock or Southside, any of that stuff means. So you find this is episode 18 of Soul Seed Conversations, a mental wellness podcast, and we're talking with Malik Brooks. We are based in Richmond, Virginia. So those places that he's talking about are where we're based at, and it's an urban city area. Shout out to Will, who said this is powerful. We appreciate you watching. Hi, Promagon. I think that's how you say it. Hey, Kate Shell. I asked you that question about being an empath because, like, even with you being so young and those things starting to happen to and around you at such a young age, 9 and 14, but you just felt like this is not normal. Like, why is everybody around me acting like this is just every day and they're okay with it? Everybody's not like you and like me, but people don't feel very deeply. People don't feel charged to do something or feel like they're okay to stand up and say, this is not right. Like, can y'all look around and see what's going on? So that's what I think is so powerful about you. Like, you felt like at the time you moved, you had to go to another state. And like you said, essentially changing the narrative and finding out and it being okay that you can speak up and have a voice and change things. So what age were you when you moved from Richmond to Texas?
I was 17. Yeah, I was 17 because I graduated high school at 17 years old. And I'll tell y'all straight up, the thing that made my decision to go was like, I always give my brother the kudos on this one because he was going to VCU at the time and he had an apartment. He was going to college downtown. Let me go ahead and make sure I'm talking so everybody can understand. He was going to school downtown. He's 1 year older than me. And he just got this apartment. He got great grades. And there was this nightclub right across the street from where he lived that we used to hang out outside of, like, couldn't even get in. We were kids. And so we would just hang out and wait for people to get out. And so we could just be on scene or whatever. And then there was this big old fight, big old shooting, like, 2-3 people got shot, cops everywhere. And I was just, at that time, like, I was kind of like just so sick of everything. I was just in the middle of it. Like, I was just like, come get me, like, I'm not running. I'm not scattering.
Wow.
I'm tired of it. Like, it's just like whatever. And so my brother just dragged me. He's like, let's go. And he dragged me up to his apartment, and his room looked down over the scene, right? So we could see, like, the police, we could see the ambulance, and we could see people scrambling, we could see everything. And he was just like, look down at that, bro. Like, that's gonna be you. That's gonna take you. If you stay here, you're gonna be dead. And my brother's only a year older than me. Oh, wow. So I let him, he was launching into me like, Lawrence Fishburne on Boys in the Hood. Like, he was going in, and I just stood there. I didn't say nothing. I just looked at him for like 2 hours straight. I just looked at him, and he told me, he's like, if you stay here, you're gonna die, bro. Like, mom knows it, everybody knows it, but they're just not trying to tell you the truth because it hurts. And so I was like, just looked at him. I left. I walked out. I called my dad. Like, later, I was like, yeah, bro, I'll take you up on that, because he already knew that. He wasn't in my life, but he knew enough to know, like, bro, you're not going to make it through these next few years just hanging out there being like that. And for me, the thing that made the impact was people around me who loved me enough to tell me that for real. My principal told me the same thing. He pulled me aside, said, told me about the graveyard. He told me asked me where the richest place on earth was. And I told him the country Luxembourg, which was, at the time, it's in Europe, because I went to a gifted school, but he told me it was a graveyard, and I didn't even know that's what he meant.
That's what he meant. Yeah.
So,
wow.
So yeah, 17 years old. It was at 17, yeah.
I feel like 17 is such an impactful age because you're not quite grown, even though everybody say you're grown at 18. You are not, okay? Your brain is still developing and all of that stuff, but society says in the U.S. we grown, right? Yeah. But for me, 17 is where a lot of pivotal changes happen in my life too. So to hear you say 17, you had that moment, your brother just came to you face to face, come to Jesus moment, like, yo, this is real life, this is it. A lot of people don't have that. So shout out to your brother. Shout out to you for just having that quickening spirit that just was like, all right, I ain't trying to stay up in this. And you left. So you got to Texas. What was Texas like?
So Texas was a whole eye-opening experience. First and foremost, even going there, it was sort of like some Will Smith, Uncle Phil type stuff. Like, I hadn't known my dad. You know, that was the first time I lived with him since I was 2 years old. So I hadn't lived with him. I hadn't seen him like more than a year. You know, I would go like 1 or 2 years without seeing him. So we were kind of just like strangers. And so we were just strangers who were basically there to build this crazy relationship, this powerful relationship pretty quickly. So getting to know him and working through all the pain, all the regret, all the neglect that, you know, that we had growing up, you know, because we struggled. When your parents split, it almost always goes down like that. So lights off, no water, you know, even when I was a kid, like just giving up my allowance, because it's like, yeah, you saved up X amount of dollars, but light bills do. So come on, get, or whatever money you save up, like whatever money, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so there was a lot of issues, but at the same time, I knew that my dad knew a few things that he could teach me to help me change the world, because the number one thing I wanted to do was end the shit that was going down in Richmond. At the time, I thought what I was experiencing was only happening here. I thought Southside Richmond was everything. I thought this was the world. I thought nobody outside of here would know this. I pulled up in Houston thinking, man, I'm from Richmond. What you mean about Houston? You know, go to Dallas, San Antonio.
Right.
And
it's always
you know, thinking
bigger and badder, they say.
Always someone bigger and badder. So yeah, I ended up in Texas, patching things up with my father. And as I was patching things up with him and kind of growing into the type of man that I felt I needed to be to even change all this type of stuff and doing a lot of my healing, I ended up just going to school out there, going to Texas State University. Never heard of it, but I knew that I needed to stay on longer, because basically I'd come home and visit. And every time I come home and visit, like 2, 3 more people are dead. Like, there's a shooting, there's something. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to just chill. We're going to be low key. And as I was at school for, you said, what did I go to school for? I started off in school trying to get a degree in physics, actually. So physics, engineering, I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to build robots and get rich and then use that money to rebuild everything. That's how I thought I would do it. I thought that was the first step. Mm-hmm. And so, but while I was in school, another one of my friends was killed, and while I was, you know, away, and that really affected me. So I got plugged in with another friend of mine, and he got me plugged in with a professor who had already been doing all kinds of work in the communities all over the state of Texas. And basically he had a similar story to me. Grew up in these trenches, dealing with the bullshit, and the trauma just spurred him on his journey. And he was a department head. And so because he ran a social work department and everything, had this dope agency, we just went all over the state, just helping kids like refugees, ex-gang members, kids, good kids. I don't like to use good kids and bad kids, but quote unquote good kids, bad kids, everything in between, and helping them just develop as people, or helping them with job readiness, doing so much shit. Actually, more shit than I could probably handle. So that's part of where the burnout came from.
So quick question. We had talked about personally your dad. I'm going to switch back to that, and then we're going to go back to where you just were. You had made a comment saying that your dad was a lot of things to a lot of different people, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
But as a father, you know, because of the split, you know, things went a different direction. He moved or whatever. So I wanted to kind of put a pin in that real quick, because so many people hear about like single parents, single moms more specifically, and like why dads are not present, you know. But you got a dad that was like really well respected where he was at, doing a lot of work and things like that. But you guys had a lacking because of the divorce, and he just wasn't as present. He's in a whole nother state. So can you talk about that just a little bit? Because you said your dad didn't really want to be present, but he was also conquering the world at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the other side. So my dad, so I'll talk about both of my parents just to help spread this out. Both of my parents, they're black engineers. I know sometimes people may get it confused, but both of my parents are black and they are engineers. And that's how they met. At the time when they did that, there weren't black engineers.
Right.
So this was the way to
That's amazing.
Yeah. Right? Kudos. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
But and so with that, and so that's how my mom met my dad, and my father, trying to push that envelope, ended up doing all kinds of work for the government, all kinds of work for the military. He became a doctor. He started companies, started businesses. He started major companies, major health companies that ended up, because of a number of reasons, he ended up learning how the system works and how even if you try to do things on your own, people who work together will take things from you. So this is a man who's built companies that you will see on CNN, companies that you've seen, telemedicine company. So I'm trying not to just do a plug, but this is a massive health network. He's put together health clinics for people all over Texas, help millions of people in Texas who are impoverished get health care for the first time, argued with senators, all this type of stuff, climbed mountains, made a lot of money. But
right.
to do all that, he had to let us go. I'll be real with you. There's things that he had to do, and some of the work that he did with the military that had him so fucked up they couldn't come home. So I didn't mean to, that he couldn't come home and even look his kids in the eyes. He couldn't be our father. He didn't want to be our father.
This is super important for you to talk about. So please share.
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah. So he was utterly desensitized. My dad is somebody who I'll say straight up, he gained the world, but he lost his soul. And even part of what makes us so close to this day is we connect through the traumas, and that's a tough thing. Probably one of the hardest things for him is to know that he went off, did all these things, and got all these good things, going for him, but his kids had to go through life and death struggles in the city that he wasn't prepared to stand there with us and go through. That's hard. Right. It's a lot easier to travel the world and build up $1 million companies or help a stranger who you don't really know, back from suicide or whatever. Yeah. But it's harder to watch your kids. It's harder to be there day in and day out.
Right.
To deal with your kid, that, because it hits.
Right.
It hits.
It's real work. Kudos to him for all the amazing work that he has been able to do. I was talking to somebody recently and they made a comment about the president that we all know and love. He got the same skin tone as us, right?
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, look what he was able to do. He was raised with just one parent. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Great children can come from single parent households. Look at us, but we do have some unique traumas, right? Because our parents are divided. They can only do but so much. They got to go work, number one. Yeah. But at the same time, what I know as a parent now, your children only want you, but you do got to get up and go pay those bills too. So like you said, your dad conquered so much, and we do want to give reverence and honor to him for the things he was able to do. And it sounds like you guys are building upon what you have now, but that doesn't negate our truths. We can still tell our truths, and two very different truths can still be true at the same time. So I bring this up and I put emphasis on what we're talking about, because it's we see people's accolades and we see them in the community doing so much work. We see them in the highest office for the state, country, whatever. And we automatically assume that they got their shit together emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Or that their families are intact. Yeah. A lot of people probably looked at your dad and wouldn't even assume that he had children somewhere that were going through things that were unthinkable. So I made that comment to the person that brought up President Obama. I'm like, kudos to that man. I love me some Obama. But why are you sitting here assuming what's going on in his household or in his mind, or what traumas he's been through, what things he's still trying to work through as a man, as a human, as a Black man? So I just like to bring these stories to the forefront, because people look at things and see it in the physical and they don't see beyond that, because they get stuck on the accolades or look what he did. Yes, look what he did. That is absolutely amazing. Right. But you don't know who's struggling or if he's struggling or anybody else. That's why I didn't want to bring up any names, but I wanted to share that because of that. People look at the things that I may be doing and wow, she got it made, she got this and that. They have no idea the shit I was going through before I got on this podcast, or what I'm gonna go through tomorrow, or same thing with you. So I appreciate you kind of going back to share that, because I thought that was important to highlight.
Oh yeah, no, I without a doubt, for sure.
There is something else. I know we talked about earlier, you being an empath, and it was a word that you talked about when we talked that you spoke of. Probably, you said you were sensitive and intuitive, and I love to hear men talk about that, because those are attributes that we normally give to women. Mm-hmm. However, men can have them too. And as y'all can see, you know, there was some things in his story that he experienced young that he like, something ain't right. Like, this ain't right. So I love that you use those words to describe yourself. I also wanted to bring up your mental health diagnosis that we had talked about, because you said there was some depression and PTSD that went on before you moved to Texas. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I would say that with the mental health, so for me, the crazy part is I didn't even realize that I had like real mental health issues until I got out of the environment that was like kind of causing it. Because that's where I kind of went out of survival mode and was able to go into healing mode, or at least that's where I felt like I could. I had to get somewhere safe. And so I would say, without a doubt, I'd say probably from the time that I was, 7, I was struggling with those things. For me personally, and even now, there's things that I've struggled with, and it's crazy just because recently I kind of connected the dots as to how powerful and how significant my struggle is. Because when you go through something traumatic as a very young child, part of your defense mechanism is to like just not feel and to sort of just shut down. And so I had years where I would just, to look like a normal kid, I would be pretending I'm smiling. I would look around at a bunch of kids in class. The teacher would be like, we're having a pizza party or something like that. And all the kids would get excited, but I just wouldn't feel excitement. I wouldn't feel excitement, had horrendous nightmares, PTSD. I thought it was normal to wake up in cold sweats. I thought it was normal to, to sleepwalk. I thought it was normal to like vomit from like panic attacks, all this stuff that to me, I just thought was just normal. I thought that's just how it was. I thought it was normal to constantly think about death, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got in, and because of that, I struggled in school. I struggled in different relationships and things like that. And just to be real, I'll talk about something that a lot of guys don't talk about. I didn't really date extensively in high school. Like I did not. It was very hard for me to open up and to kind of just enjoy it. To just be like, I'm going to focus on hanging out with this girl, kissing, loving up on her and thinking about that. Because the only thing that I was thinking about is just surviving and being on a date with her. And like, well, you won't have my back if some shit goes down. Like, and I want to make sure that you're good.
It's completely different. Yeah, trauma changes your brain. Period. End of story.
Changes everything.
It changes everything. Yeah. I want to shout out Elegant Cuisines and Teresa, Miss AP Styles. We got our medal in the house. AP Styles says, so true. I imagine it would be hard. Absolutely. Thank you for coming in and engaging.
Appreciate you.
So
thank you.
Everybody coming in, this is Malik Brooks. This is episode 18 of Soul Seat Conversations, our mental wellness podcast. And he is sharing some powerful truth right now. So I'm going to get back to this part where you shared about relationships. Let's talk about how trauma shows up in your relationships and your ability to be intimate and just focus and have joy and happiness. Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's talk. Let's talk then. So so it definitely has impacted it for me. And I think when I was younger, like I struggled to be, because I am an empath and I can talk about a lot of things with people. I'm a good communicator. Mm-hmm. It would sort of freak people out when we would get to this level of intimacy or closeness that I was sort of shut down. But that's, you know what I'm saying? You feel it. I was sort of like it just because, I'm almost like, all right, now you're getting to the place where I feel like you'll be able to see and feel the things that I'm seeing and feeling and trying to hide from the world, right? Woo! And so then, like, I'm going to go ahead and try to protect you, keep you at a distance, but what that really does is it makes her feel like, or whoever your significant other is, feel like, okay, so what you hiding from me? So why don't you trust me?
Or and then they think, what's wrong with me? It ain't even them whole time.
Exactly. Yes. It's not even, it's not even them. And so you end up in this whole situation where it's just kind of like, oh my God, like you kind of where it can be stressful. Like
Yep.
getting close to somebody is stressful just because you're kind of like afraid of what's going to happen once you start approaching all these things, or you don't want to be the one depressing them or getting them down or to re-trigger them. And so for me, I struggled with that for a very, very long time.
Shout out to
And
you for coming to that realization. AP Style says trauma shows up in so many ways. Yes. Will Roy said facts. So many facts. Let's put a pin in that. We gotta let's talk about that a little bit more. Because first of all, I appreciate you for being that open and that freaking honest, because men and women can relate to that, and anybody in between can relate to that. That is something that I struggle with. I know a lot of people. I'm not that close to a lot of people for a bunch of reasons, but even the people that I found myself really close to now, I had to do a lot of work to truly let them in. And just like 2 years ago, what you just said was like, you have a fear of letting people get too close, because essentially what they do is they can see your insecurities.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So that trauma changes you. And for me, I'll speak for myself. It made me feel like I wasn't worthy enough. It made me feel like I was crazy at certain points, that I was broken. And who want to be with somebody like that? So that's what I told myself. Like, why would somebody ever want to be with somebody like that? And I've also been on the other end, dating men and thinking something was wrong with me, even though I had my own stuff, from those relationships and things that transpired that caused friction. There were situations that it won't me and my trauma. It hadn't shown up yet. It hadn't had time to show up yet, because the other person was dealing with their stuff, but not open and honest or even educated enough to know why they were pushing me away, or to know why they were showing up in certain situations. So we all got work to do, and we all have trauma that we need to address. And what I see right now in the relationship space is that it's a lot of pointing fingers, and a lot of that stuff is true. But at the same time, when you point fingers, it's one pointing back at you as well. So it has to be a mirror. It can't just be me putting a mirror up in front of your face. It got to be a two-way. Like, you can talk about the things that you've been through, how it's affecting you, how you're showing up or not showing up in this relationship. And same thing, I need to be able to take fault, for the things that I'm bringing into the relationship. Trauma runs so deep, y'all. And like, as Black people, we have unique, complex traumas that are going to show up in relationships. So a lot of this talk about relationships and why men and women can't get along is so layered. It's so many facets. But like, at the basis of it, we collectively have trauma that all of us went through because of what our ancestors went through. That's number one. That's a trauma we all got, because it's generational. And then on top of that, you got environmental. You were living in Richmond thinking that this is just crazy in this part of Richmond. Whole time, it's places in Richmond that people walk out and the grass is green and the birds seem like they're chirping a little louder and the sky look like, the air is, so, but you moved to Texas and found out it ain't just in Richmond. It's over here too, So I love the work that you're doing, because even though we're not completely perfect, we're not completely healed, but we're doing the work on ourselves, having bad days in the midst of that, but also, sharing our light with other people as well, to say, look, I done been there too. And we need relatable people in this space. So you're not just showing up with a degree talking about, well, I read this and it says that you have this because that, like, no, I done been through it as well. Been through the trenches as well. I know what it's like. Here go my shoulder. Here go a pocket of sunshine if you need it. You know what I'm saying? We standing in this thing together. So that's what I love about what you're doing. It's like, I know you have bad days. I know you go ghost because you're trying to get yourself together. But at least you're aware. One more thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to let you finish. A lot of people are using their awareness as a weapon as well. We are weaponizing therapy. We're saying things like, I'm healed, boo. Go get you some healing. We're not doing that. Like,
not doing that.
We're not weaponizing therapy. We're not weaponizing being in relationships. Oh, well, ain't nothing wrong with me because I got a boo. I got a man. I'm married. Y'all are miserable over there. And that man is tired of you, or that woman is tired of you. We can't weaponize healthy things. We can't weaponize relationships. We can't weaponize marriage and therapy. Like, let's just be honest and have these conversations. And you got issues and I got issues too, but I'm gonna read these comments and I'm gonna let you get back to what you said. Off on a tangent.
No, we good. I'm all for the tangents. It's all good.
So resiliently bold. Hey, what's up? Thank you. She says, speak sis, so true. Appreciate the transparency. Thank you for being here and allowing us to do so. She said, yes, we all have to do the work. She says, every Black person in America needs therapy. Francis says, come on, word. It's the awareness for me. AP Sal says she just followed you, Malik. Okay. I'm off my soapbox. You got the floor.
Yes, yes. So yeah, just yes to everything that you said. Like you hit like 10 different points.
Right.
It's
Wait, I can tell.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I can tell you where you were if you forgot, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Bring me back in.
We were talking about how we show up in relationships and not wanting to get too close to people.
So yeah, so it's, oh my gosh, yes. So with that, not wanting to get too close to people and feeling like we need to protect people from the things that hurt us, and then feeling that we need to go away to heal, like kind of like you said, this whole weaponization of healing and therapy. Like I didn't go and get my license to become a therapist. I did, and I stopped intentionally because working with these populations, working with these young people, I've been in positions where I helped train dozens of social workers, and people have gone on to become therapists, PhDs, all kinds of things. But kind of like you said, there is this sort of like this thing that kind of gets us locked in and gets us rigid in how we think about that. And there's so many ways that we all need to heal. There's a billion different paths to it.
Right.
But when we get into this space where like, oh, you're messed up because you do X, Y, and Z, and I'm fixed because I don't do X, Y, and Z. That's why we're all tripping. Because the reality of it is everybody here is going through it. Your therapist is going through it. Your therapist became a therapist because they're trying to find some solutions to their own problems. Like, I promise you. And
my twin sister got into social work, even though she's out now, got into it because of the household she lived in with me and my mom and our crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? So everybody that's been through something. The therapist has a therapist.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's just one of the things that I've definitely just been experiencing and going through in this season is realizing how much, like, just even when we are, and especially I know a lot of people on this show, on this podcast, in the chats and the comments who follow the page are people who heal other people, who change other people's lives, and whether that's like your calling or whatever, or it's just how you are in the family or the friend group or whatever, you're that one. And when we're doing that and we're getting stronger and we're building up this resiliency, right? We're dealing with this trauma that we all had to deal with just to survive, being born Black or just being in this world, right? When we do that, like, we're putting on like this armor, and we put on that armor that protects us from feeling the bad things. That armor also blocks us from feeling the good things, and that makes us even worse. And so just learning for me, like, that comfort in being able to like put my armor on to deal with the trauma that's still occurring, that's still happening, the threats that are still, that I'm still facing and dealing with, and the people I love are still facing and dealing with. But being able to put that armor on, deal with that pain, take the armor off, and then give myself the space to be like, you know what? That shit hurt. That shit was sad. We're going to go ahead and not try to hold on to all those emotions or hold on to those feelings. We're just going to go ahead and let it go and not try to be in control of everything. Because, I think sometimes, I know for myself, I get so wrapped up on trying to make myself feel not sad. Or for some of us, especially the whole love and light crowd, we don't want to feel anger, right? We don't want to feel no negative emotions.
Right.
But because you're feeling anger doesn't mean it needs to get out of control.
Absolutely.
It's just something telling you how you actually feel about a situation.
It shows that you care, because normally when we upset it's because we care about something. Something went wrong and threaten that, So it's just about being aware of why those emotions are passing through us and not identifying or letting your anger allow you to identify as an angry person. It's okay to be angry.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. That's part of it. It's normal. It's normal. And so I feel like I know for me personally, my emotions are kind of like a river. Like, you have to let them flow. And if you block that river, if you put something in the middle of a river, it starts flooding and going everywhere. It starts going crazy. So I can feel for myself, there are times when I'm like, I haven't just let it go. I haven't just let myself feel sad. I haven't let myself feel angry. I haven't just sat down and been real.
Right.
Like, so I was so worried about saying the right thing or doing the right thing And one thing I've learned about traumas and hurt is that that bill always comes due. So you think that something happened to you years back ain't bothering you? Oh, baby, it's just building up. It's just adding on interest. Like that credit, you gotta have to pay it off. You know what I'm saying? And so you don't want to be bringing it into a new space where you're having to pay it off with this new relationship because it gets in the way of everything.
Yeah.
Of everything.
I
So.
want to segue into the work that you did with gang members. You touched on it a little bit in refugees. What was that like? Exactly what were you doing? How were you connecting with them, number one? Because when I think about gang members, I'm like, I don't want to get too close because y'all ain't going to shoot me. And if I make you mad, even though I'm on your team today, make you mad, you might want to shoot me. You know, so what was all of that like?
So to clarify, I still do that. Like we're still in that. But the journey to get involved in that started from, to be real, growing up with them. And that was how I actually got good. I got good by failing to help my friends leave that shit. Like it started off as just a curiosity, like, bro, like, what's going through your head? Like, why did you do this? Why is that? Like I always have been somebody to sit down, philosophize, and have heart to hearts with people. And then as I got into the work that I was doing out in Texas, like the gang problem in Texas is just, it's on another level. If you're in Virginia, you probably, like, our definition of a gang problem is just different. Like we're not used to cities and communities where like you will look. Part of why to this day I don't have tattoos. I love tattoos. I love art. I love everything. But there are when you deal with so many gangs, so many cartels, so much of that shit, you end up in a situation where, you know, having a fucking like a star on your face means one thing. Having a puppy here means another thing. Having lips there means other things. So all types of stuff that you wouldn't think of when you're dealing with the societies, groups with lots of gang members and shit, like they're always reading your ink. And so for me, trying to be somebody who's pulling up and trying to convince a bunch of young men that, hey, bro, like I'm here to help you, for one thing. I'm not your PO. I'm not a cop. I'm not anything like that. I'm not an OG. I'm none of that. I'm not your therapist. I'm something in between, right? And I want you to feel comfortable in talking with me about this. So that opened up a lot. But what it really did for me is kind of just show like how we're sort of wrapped up into this shit that we don't really control. Because yeah, when you jump into the world of dealing with gangs, you end up taking on the dramas and the fights of all the people around you. It's not the same thing as you just deciding one day that you want to start being bad or acting out or whatever. You're pulling up because, one, this whole thing is already in play before you, generations before you're even there. Two, there's not all of it is evil. It's culture, right? It's culture. It's community. It's family. Like I have friends who are OGs who started gangs, who started as young, ended up building a set, a successful set, became an OG, retired out, and then honestly, they're the ones who helped me even philosophize on us trying to change it. And the game is always changing. The second thing is, make no mistake, this stuff is intentional. Like police, the way that people get locked up, the way that our communities are driven and pushed into a corner, even just picking people up and the whole getting someone to flip and snitch, all intentional, right? All intentional, pitting gangs against each other, taking resources away from communities, refusing to fund things, and that's just naturally what happens. So the gang component was sort of a surprise that this is just how it was out there. It was just like, I was just showing up and having to learn, like, yeah, this gang shit is just real. Like, you have to be tied in, you have to be affiliated with it. And these stories, and it didn't just take place on this side. So I use the phrase refugees because a lot of the kids and the young people I was dealing with, they came from the other side of the border. Black people specifically, a lot of times we're not too familiar with the struggles of our Latino brothers and sisters, our brown brothers and sisters. So the origins of how they got here, we don't really get that. We kind of just think that, oh, they just decided to hop in a car and come drive over here. But working with them, and hearing from these kids and being the empath that I was in all of them, the hyperventilating, the crying, and all that. You know, these kids have survived massacres. They're from places where these are wars. These aren't cartels. These are militias. They're these are kids who survive, who get to this country by being smuggled by an armed group, and then they run through this giant desert, cross a river, get in the country any kind of ways. They don't have identity while they're here. So while we're working with them, anytime the feds could bang on their doors, take all of them away, send them back to a whole other country that they're not from, a country they had to flee because there's literally people there trying to kill them. So these people, but for political reasons, our country doesn't call them refugees. They call them immigrants. They'll call them migrant workers and all that type of stuff. But these people are fleeing. They're running from war zones. El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico. Like these are war zones. And so that stuff spills over there spills here, and people form gangs. They form sets. Like,
it's almost like you said, a sense of community for them. Like if you came here under those circumstances, of course, like with anybody, you're looking for people like you to build a community with, to trust and stuff like that. That's what I'm gathering from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's completely natural. Like I'll put it to you like this. This is something that we always say. Like gangs are everywhere, right? Like your family is a gang, your friends are a gang, the police are a gang, the military is a gang. It's just what the gang does. It's a team. It's a unit. So one of the things that we did to like just tap into that, but also I guess get around it and also build on that strong suit that's already there. We did this thing we would call it team building, and team building is basically just getting a group of people together and helping them get to know each other more, helping them get to see each other's humanity, helping them get more comfortable leading and following each other and working out their issues with each other. And so that team builder, then basically you give them the game like, all right, so you see how how we built this group here, because you get the kids in the group, they're from different places, different spaces. They're not all getting along and everything, but by the end of whatever our program is, kids are telling heart to hearts, kids crying, understanding each other, and they're building. And so we're giving them that understanding. Like, you see the way that you're able to understand each other here, everywhere you're on the street, know that. Because you see that man right there who you thought you were afraid of. You thought that man was a straight killer who would drop you. But you saw him get up and talk about his pops leaving, and he cried like a little baby. And you saw how that fit in with you. And then bada boom, everyone starts seeing each other's humanity. They're less likely to kill each other.
Wow.
But one thing I will say is it takes so much more than just in the classroom conversation. Like you need multiple resources. You need to make sure they got a safe place to be. So figure out the home situation. Make sure that they're not getting beat or like in life or death threat in the home. And resources. Got to eat. They need food. Like, you don't want to be losing out to an OG or the streets just because they need an extra $20 or extra $40 or the fridge is empty or whatever like that. And for some folks, straight up, the environment is that extreme that they got to leave. They got to go. Like, and we can't lie to them and say that you can make it here. We kind of have to be honest about what that situation is. And be okay with that, because we got to recognize that this is not normal.
Yeah.
The situations that create these violent outcomes and this high level of drugs and all that, mind you, this is stuff that's strategically planned by people who stand to make a lot of money or who stand to be in a good position because certain groups stay down. So, so yeah. And right now, I would say with this work, just to kind of give a little plug and a continuation in the show, how real it is. So I'm in a program right now. It's a pilot program that we're doing, working with young people across the whole metro area. This is a partnership with the Department of Juvenile Justice and Virginia State University and somebody else in our mentoring organization called In My Corner Mentoring. East End Box. So let's talk. East End Boxing Gym. It's a place in Richmond, Virginia, where mentoring services are done. But with this particular initiative that we're doing right now is restorative justice, trying to help young people who are trying in and out of gangs, in and out of the street life, and have very serious charges, trying to help them stay out in the world, out in the community, and be able to heal and rebuild. Like these are kids with very, very serious charges. But the thing that gives me hope is that this new initiative, this new program, brings together people from all over the place, and it's quiet. It's quiet. That's another thing. Like some of the most work that happens, the realest work happens, and it happens in quiet corners. Like happens in quiet corners. Like don't worry about the awards, the accolades, and all that kind of stuff. Like because there's so many places I've been in where we're making groundbreaking work and changing things, and nobody knows. No one cares.
Wow, that's
So
the real work right there.
that's the real. That's the real work. That's the real work.
That we all have access to do, and you don't need accolades or an organization. You can do those things, but we all have a part. You know, I know some people that feel so bogged down by the things that are happening around us, and it's easy to do that. I have my days like, what in the flying fuck is going on?
Thanks.
You know, but when we on the up and up and we feeling good and we feel like we can make a difference, it doesn't have to be grand. It literally can be you walking outside and smiling at somebody. That's work. You know what I'm saying? And then you have people like you that are committed and called, I feel like, to do the work that you're doing. I know that I'm enlightened. I had no idea that you said In My Corner was an organization in Richmond.
Yeah, In My Corner. So In My Corner mentoring.
I love that. I didn't know that y'all were doing that. So we all have our place in society. Like, don't think that you're too small or you don't have enough resources. You can get there if that's what you're supposed to do, if that's in the cards for you. But like, we all got work to do. We all have an impact to make. And all we got to do is just start with one person. You know, your journey started when you were, it sounds like, younger than 9 years old. You know, all that kind of shaped you. Unfortunately, you had to go through some things, but those things made you aware. It helps you tap into your intuition, your sensitivities, your empath abilities, and it kind of gives you space spiritually to be able to do the work that you're doing. Because I know you hear and see a lot. That doesn't mean it doesn't get to you, or you may not need a therapist or a confidant or something like that, or whatever spiritual practices you have, which we're going to talk about, but it's still necessary to do that work. Couple things I want to touch on. So we just talked about like the OGs that you work with. I want to hear about their stories. Of course, you don't have to say no names or anything like that, but once they get out of that work and they're retired, what are they saying? Like, how they feeling? Is there any regret? Would they do things different? Did they wish things were different? Are they really lovable people? Like, talk to us about their hearts and the stories that you heard.
Okay, I'll talk. Okay, yes, the answer is yes. Like, and I think that's the sad reality is that if you're lucky enough to live long enough, you live long enough to know everything that you did. And the reason why I say they're OGs and they're retired at 25, because by the time you're about 25, that's when you realize that you don't want to die.
The OGs be in their 20s?
Yeah. That's OG age. That's your G age. That's your OG day, 25.
I'm learning so much today.
Yeah, like they're like Happy G Day,
right.
Happy G Day.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
and it's so grim.
But this is new to me.
It's so grim because the expectation is we don't live past 25. So like if you make it to 25, you're the OG, and that's just what it is. So yeah, I'll say families having kids, deciding to move in a different direction. One of my friends, the way that we connected was his son died. We lived in the same apartment complex. His baby died, and we bonded over that because he wanted to kill himself. He wanted to commit suicide, and so then from there, basically, we just started talking in depth, and he found out about the work and stuff that I do because he's not even here. He's in Austin, so I'm trying to redact things without putting things out there or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is after a while, just started asking him, like, bro, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm on. So how the fuck do we actually fix this? Like, you literally can't do the work because of y'all's records and stuff. Like, y'all can't, it would have to be off the record. So talk to me about it. And it was straight up like the trauma from all the shit that you're doing, from killing people, from beating people. If you kill somebody, you don't sleep. And if you do sleep, it's because you're already like not alive. So you're not sleeping. You're not really good at sleeping with anybody either.
Or you self-medicating.
Or you're self-medicating. So, you know, there's a lot of that. And for a lot of people that don't know, they're like, oh, I'm out here smoking, drinking lean. But lean is down there in Texas. Lean it's liquid heroin. That's all it is. So you're taking heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're taking heroin to go ahead and calm yourself down. And you're not really alive. You're not really alive. And then when you get to a certain place, by the time you're 25, you're not at the same place as a young, turned up 19-year-old. You're not willing to die for this shit. You want to go kick it with your girl, kick it with your people, maybe go drink and maybe go do something. But yeah, that's not what you're trying to do. Yeah.
My mind is blown because when you say OG, I'm thinking like the old heads, like, and I'm not saying you guys are old if it's some 40, 50-year-olds watching, but y'all know I'm thinking like that age, but you like in your 20s, which makes so much sense because you're living a different lifestyle.
Yeah, so like you can't, generally speaking, like, yeah, it's really, really hard to get out in your past, in your 20s. Like I'll say, the friend I'm talking about, the thing that happened for him is him and his brothers, they started this set. So it was like, you know, they put together the set, so they kind of could just be like, all right, we're not fucking with it. We're going to move on. It's not like they had some old heads or somebody above them or anything like that to be like, oh, you're not really down, blah, blah, blah. So they could kind of just be like, you know, we're done. We're walking away.
Wow.
And we're going to raise our kids. But at the end of the day, you know, they're Crips. And so still to this day, I've never seen them not wear blue. So it's still there. And the nuance and everything behind it is just that when there's no family, when there's no community, when there's no culture, something to give you pride, like you need something, you need that. And if that's, you know, you're not really just a part of it, but you grew up with that shit. Just because you're in a gang doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you vile or any of that type of stuff. There's plenty of people in gangs who never shot anybody, never done anything. They're just part of it because it's there.
Yeah, it's the culture.
And I know
all they know.
That's all they know. And then I know folks who've been in different kinds of things. Like, then we can talk, and I'm trying not to talk more about this because then there are folks who do more stuff like cartels / mafia stuff, which is not like a gang. That operates in the norm. That's where you'll start seeing politicians and people who you wouldn't expect to cross to be in bed with each other. And that's where you learn a lot more people do drugs and are on drugs than you would know. You shedding light on a whole lot. I feel like we can do a part 2. Oh yeah,
so much. But I appreciate the information you have given us. Like I have a whole new definition for what I thought a refugee was, or like another definition in addition to what I thought it was. And then with like, you know, the gangs, like it being a culture and things like that, not everybody necessarily being bad and shooting people and evil and the different, they reading your tattoos. And we thought, I'm gonna speak for myself in my ignorance. I thought it was just like, and I had an idea about the tattoos, but of course we just hear about the colors. You know, you wear a certain color, hang it on this side, whatever. So much to know. And then we judge things because we see things in movies or see Snoop Dogg rapping about something. You know what I'm saying? Like you really don't know until you're in it. But just to like see the work that you're doing and you being able to get through to this group of people is just special. Like not everybody can do that. So kudos to you for the work. I know there's so much more we could talk about, but I do want to touch on 2 special people in your life. And then I have one more question for you before we end. I know we talked about your grandmother a little bit, and she was like a really big influence and very special person. If you want to cry at some point, because I know you're probably gonna get emotional, that's fine. But I did want to, I wanted, you know, to pay homage to grandma too, because you told me that, you know, she taught you how to read because there was some learning disabilities and just her being your caretaker. Like, let's just talk about her a little bit, and then I want to talk about your mentor after her too.
Okay, yeah. So I'll talk about my grandmother. So my grandmother she was the best. It was kind of like a Medea situation where she was everybody's grandmother, everybody's mother. Like we're from a big family, big connected family. And so that's what she is. She's the real deal matriarch. And so she raised me. Like whenever everything went left with my parents and, you know, my mom tells the story all the time. She was like, yeah, I moved from Richmond, moved to California, like I'm gonna conquer the world, and I'm never gonna, go and have to deal with my mom again. I'm leaving and never coming back. And as she says all the time, she was like, I left, had 3 kids, got married, and I showed back up at my mama's house with 3 kids and no job and needed to rebuild my life. And she was there. She did it for my mom. She did it for my mom's sister, for all my cousins and all that. So she was basically like the second parent to like 9 grandkids. So I lived with her multiple times. She lived with us multiple times. And as you stated, as you said, I didn't learn how to read and write and all that type of stuff till I was like in the 2nd grade. And she taught me. I didn't learn anything. I was they were trying to put me in every single special ed program and all that other stuff. But my grandmother used to be a teacher, and she was like a fiery ass teacher. So she was one of those teachers who's like trying to change the school system, and she decided like she stayed teaching like kids like she stayed teaching in RPS. So John Marshall, Kennedy.
Wow. Did I know your grandma?
You said what? Oh no. She probably retired before then. She was retired before then.
Text me her name after we hang up, so I can see if some people know her. Because I have some people in the school system too that are probably her age or were her age.
Oh yeah, then they definitely know her. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but so she took me in, and she basically figured out that she taught me like 10 years worth of school. So I went from not being able to read and write, and she brought me up to a 10th grade reading level within like about a year.
Wow.
Then she figured out so she homeschooled me. She took me around. She was basically like my mentor. So when she's taking care of different people in our family, different things in the community, she's bringing me along and showing me the way. She's giving me the history, the oral history. Like, we don't need to worry about the books. I'm going to tell you how all this stuff came together. And she drilled into my head like our family's history, our family origin from my great-great-grandfather, who freed himself off of a plantation, threatened to kill his overseer, and then left and then built from there. And so in our family, like all of that oral history, the oral story of how we got here.
Y'all some badasses over there. And that
yeah, so we all badasses. All of us are, But yeah, so she raised me, taught me so much. And then the crazy part is come full circle. So I moved to Texas, did all these great things. She never wanted me to go to Texas. She thought Texas was dangerous. She thought it was crazy. She was like, you gotta go down there, get killed, get lynched. You don't need to be away from your family. But I knew I had a calling or whatever, and she was proud about that. And so as it would, turn out, she ended up like struggling with a lot of health issues. So by the time I think she was in her late 70s or whatever, she ended up becoming wheelchair bound. So, and the things kind of aligned perfectly where I kind of got burnt out when I was living in Texas doing all these big things, or at least I thought I was doing these big things, trying to change the world and being disconnected from the people who built me. And so I ended up coming back to Virginia for what I thought was going to be like, 6 months, 2 months. I was going to get in and get out. But when I pulled back up here and got reconnected with her, I figured out that, she's old. She's aging. She can't really walk, and she needs help to be taken. She needs caretaking, right? So I ended up being her caretaker for something I thought would only last for like, a couple of months. Cause I don't know why it doesn't really fit in your head that this is how it goes.
Yeah.
But it ended up.
It's a lot to deal with.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it ended up being about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 4 years. She went from being a paraplegic, so paralyzed in her legs, to being a quadriplegic. Mm-hmm. And that's being paralyzed in all 4 limbs. And the thing about it is I learned so much through that process. Like, that was probably the hardest shit. Some of the hardest shit I've ever done. But it gave me an appreciation for life, like having to get up every single day to get her dressed, to get her fed, and to know that if we miss one routine, like she could kind of just fall apart and die. That's how quick it was, right? And just for me, that showed me like what really matters out here. Like, sometimes we focus on the big world, we focus on helping and changing all these different lives, but then to be in that position where, straight up, my job was to sit here with the woman who built me, built so many people, and just sit here with her in the toughest time of her life
Right.
and hold her down, like
Right.
making her laugh, giving her joy,
Yeah.
helping, bringing her light. That right there, I'm so beyond grateful that I learned what really matters. Because the worst thing that I think could have happened would be for me to continue to be trying to achieve or do something else and not be there for her in that moment, because she
And
was
forget
afraid.
about the real work in
The
life.
real work in life.
Our first job, I should say. Our first job in life.
Our first job. It all comes full circle. We all need each other. Everything comes full circle. If you're lucky and you do it right and you get beyond the OG age of 25 and you get way up in the 80s and stuff, you know, or the 90s, you know, you're probably gonna need somebody to help you do things. You're gonna have to relearn things again. You're gonna have to relearn to walk, relearn to feed yourself, relearn to dress yourself,
or have somebody else help you do those things if you can't, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting emotional, man, thinking about that. Like, we all got our things that we're dealing with beyond the work that we do, and that's ringing true for me in my life right now. So I'm getting emotional and just want to give you your kudos and flowers for taking care of her, because even though I know it was hard, I know it was something that she probably appreciated, because when people get older, honey, and they done did what they want and said what they say and what they say and work what they want, they can say whatever they want to say because they done earned their right.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard living life, and then when you get to that age where, you know, you're kind of breaking down physically and mentally, like, go ahead, say what you want to say. I'm gonna be mad at you talking your shit, but go ahead, you earned it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing for them to have their children and her grandchild actually taking care of her. It's a beautiful tribute. You know what I'm saying? Because she gave you something. She gave you life, essentially. She birthed your mom, and then you're able to give her back what she needed at that moment, which was a caretaker and somebody who know her and love her taking care of her. That hit different than going to a nursing home or something like that. So I know that was hard, you know, and as you being a young Black man, I just got to give you kudos for that, because you could have been anywhere else doing whatever you wanted to do, you know, in the streets, trying to conquer the world, but forgetting about home. You could have been doing all of that. And we had a personal conversation about that too, you know, people doing great things in the community, but forgetting the real community, which starts in our homes. And that things ain't gonna be perfect. You know, as I sit in this chair now, there are things and people that I'm trying to rectify situations with in my own family, my own journey. Then I'm doing this, you know, trying to inspire y'all. So it's all full circle. You know, we all got work to do personally and in the community, and with our families. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I don't know if it was something else, you can definitely share it, but I also wanted to talk about your mentor too.
I think just with my grandma, the only thing I would share more to that is to everybody, because a lot of us who may not have that experience, I encourage you to go ahead and do it, right? Whenever you have that person in your life, someone who's done everything, don't just assume that, you know, oh, they're going through this, that end transition time, it's fine, it's easy. It's not. It's difficult. It's hard for everybody. They may not say it. Some people are good to go, some people aren't. But it makes the world a difference for you to be there. And then something crazy, something magical happens when you are there. Like you start feeling, you're like, oh man, they're leaning on me. And you feel afraid, like, 'cause you don't feel like you're the one. But then just in being a part of that, what you realize is that when you feel like you're not enough, you realize that you are. Because at a certain point, at least this happened for me, my grandmother became really, really content, easy, happy to go, ready to go. And so she was just beyond grateful that, like, it's kind of like, yeah, you're here, you're the best, I appreciate this. Like, and it changes you forever, because it changes the way that you see other people and their life journey, but it also changes the way that you see yourself, because it helps you realize the value that you have. Like, even just sitting there with somebody being bored, you know, for hours and hours, just sitting there holding their hand.
And shit, soap opera.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. Old Westerns, TVN, daytime TV, like everything, all the shit, you know. So it matters. You matter. Your presence matters. And I'll definitely, and this other thing too, you're not going to remember when you live long enough and do all the things you're doing, you're not going to remember the petty shit. You're not going to remember how much money you made.
Right.
You're not going to remember all the awards you got. You're not going to remember the beefs you have with certain people. What you're going to remember is the love. What you're going to remember is the life. What you're going to remember, the weird shit is you're going to remember, like, your little brother sitting next to you at a picnic when y'all were like 4 and taking your ice cream cone. That is crazy, but that's how it's wired. Like the love and the goodness and all that just starts showing back up. And so when we don't try to turn away from helping each other through our pain, it's like we start healing and helping each other. You know, we start healing and helping each other. So let the process unfold, be a part of it, and be there for the ones who birthed and raised you. I believe that's part of the circle, like, because somebody will help you.
And
you know?
we're going to talk offline because you have no idea how divine that message was. God is so good and works in mysterious ways. And I'll share with you when we get off. But I'm sure not only me, but somebody else watching now or the replay. Don't forget to hashtag replay with some sunshine emojis in the bottom light. And if that resonated with you, definitely let us know. That was a word, man, and I appreciate that. Mary Miller, we got a couple people that have joined us too, but Mary says, how beautiful and what a gift. I absolutely agree.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I definitely want to get more into, because in the beginning, I didn't ask the question the way I should have, but in the beginning, I normally ask people when they sit in the soul seat, I say, what do you do? But you did tell us you're an artist, social change agent, and yeah, pretty much an activist. I mean, he has a lot of different titles we can call him, but eventually we're going to get into the part of the interview where I ask you, what do you do again? But I want to know like what those practices are that keep you grounded, that help your mental wellness, that make you happy, things like that. Before we go into that, I want